Hello, R. Could you introduce yourself and share a little about your journey as a pilot?
Sure. I'm R. I grew up in Singapore, studied in the US, but based back in Singapore now. But I've actually flown for different airlines over the years, carriers in other parts of the world. Honestly, I've spent more of my adult life in the sky than on the ground. Flying became my identity. The uniform, the lifestyle, the constant movement. It sounds glamorous, and in many ways, it is. But there's a whole side of it people don't see until you're living it day in, day out.
What first drew you into becoming a pilot, and how different was the reality compared to your expectations?
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be in the cockpit. I'd look up at the sky, watch planes roar past, and think, one day I'm going to fly one of those. The reality is a mix. Flying is every bit as thrilling as I imagine, but it's also a lot more responsibility than people realize. You're not just steering, you're managing systems, making split-second decisions, and staying sharp even when you're tired. It's rewarding, but it's not just the Top Gun lifestyle movies make it out to be.
A lot of people picture pilots as living glamorous life. From your experience, how true is that stereotype, and where does it fall short?
There are glamorous bits, sure, landing in cities like Paris or Tokyo, and staying in hotels most people dream about. That feels amazing. But people don't see the grind. You're waking up at 3 a.m. for a flight, battling jet lag, and sometimes spending your layover just catching up on sleep. And meals? Half the time, it's room service eaten in silence because your body clock is upside down. So yes, there's glamour, but it's balanced by a lot of fatigue and very unglamorous moments.
You have worked for airlines outside of Singapore. What are some differences you have noticed in culture, crew life, or even passenger expectations?
Oh, big differences. In the Middle East, for example, the culture among crew is a bit more formal, and passengers can be extremely demanding. In European airlines, it's more relaxed. The crews tend to bond over drinks and laugh things off. Asian carriers are stricter, more by the book. But one common thing, wherever you are, pilots and cabin crew end up sticking together. Because who else are you going to hang out with when you're in a random city at 2 a.m.? That's when you really see how different cultures unwind. Let's just say, some crews are a lot more adventurous than others.
So, what's one of the most memorable experiences that you have had on duty or during a layover?
Okay, without getting myself into trouble. There was one time in Europe where our layover turned into a full-blown party. Pilots, cabin crew, everyone. It started with just a couple of drinks at the hotel bar, and suddenly we're renting a party bus with strobe lights, blasting music, driving through the city at 3 a.m. Let's just say some of the crew didn't make it back for breakfast call the next day. That kind of bonding, it's unique to aviation. You don't really see that in a 9 to 5 job.
That's true. You don't have that in a regular job. People often wonder, do pilots and cabin crew really hang out together as much as people think?
Oh, absolutely. Who else are we going to hang with? We land in a city where we don't know a soul, so it's natural we stick together. Sometimes it's innocent, sightseeing, dinner, that sort of thing. Other times, well, it gets wild. There's chemistry, late night drinks, hotel rooms, you name it. People outside the industry love to gossip about mile high romances. But honestly, most of it happens on the ground, in hotels. The truth is, it can get pretty raunchy when you've got young, good looking crew, alcohol flowing, and zero strings attached. There can be a lot of things going on.
What is it really like living the life of a commercial pilot? Like flying, traveling, and whooping from city to city.
It's addictive, honestly. Imagine waking up in Tokyo one month, London the next, and then spending your weekend in Sydney. It feels like your passport is your best friend. The lifestyle is fast. You're constantly surrounded by new places, new people, and the adrenaline of flying itself. But the flip side, you never really settle. You're always packing and unpacking, chasing the next flight, and your sense of home becomes a hotel room.
With layovers in exciting places, pilots often get drawn into luxury hotels, fine dining, and shopping.
Oh man, it wrecked my wallet. When you're in your 20s, earning pretty good money, and staying at five-star hotels on layovers, you just get sucked into it. Colleagues would say, hey, let's try this Michelin star place in Paris. Or let's go shopping in New York. And you think, why not? It feels harmless because your paycheck is coming in and everyone around you is doing the same. I remember once in Dubai, I blew almost half my allowance on watches in a single afternoon. For the air stewardesses, they are the same, spending money buying exclusive perfumes. At the time, it didn't even feel crazy. That's the culture. You live for the moment.
Was there ever a moment when you felt the lifestyle was getting out of hand, or did it feel just normal at the time?
At the time, it felt totally normal. You're surrounded by people who spend like that, but the wake-up calls are sneaky. Like when you meet friends outside the industry and realize they bought houses, invested, started families, and you're still chasing the next trip, the next shopping spree. I looked at my bank balance once after years of flying, and it hit me. I had nothing to show for it except souvenirs and receipts. That was a sobering moment.
With that, do you think the aviation industry makes it harder or easier for someone to pursue fire, given the travel perks and high expenses?
Harder, for sure. You're surrounded by temptation. Luxury hotels, shopping, nightlife in the world's biggest cities. It's so easy to blow half your paycheck on one layover. And because you work hard, you justify it like, I deserve this. But if you don't rein it in, years fly by and you realize you've got nothing saved. Fire forces you to hit the brakes. And for me, that was a reality check. I had to learn to say no to some of the wild stuff and think long term.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about the lifestyle of a pilot?
Everyone thinks it's just glamorous. The uniform, the travel, the Instagram worthy shots from the cockpit. But here's the truth. It's exhausting. The jet lag is brutal. The schedules mess with your body clock and relationships. Super tough. You're always away, and people back home can't relate to your rhythm. Also, not every layover is Paris or New York. Sometimes it's a small city where all you see is the hotel gym.
How did the pandemic shift your perspective on both flying and finances?
Oh man, the pandemic was brutal. Overnight, flights were grounded, and we went from a high flying lifestyle to sitting at home wondering if we even have jobs. That's when it hit me. I've been living paycheck to paycheck despite earning good money. If flying stopped tomorrow, I had nothing to fall back on. That fear pushed me into learning about investing, managing my money, and really valuing financial independence. The fun times are great, but they don't protect you when the world shuts down.
What was the turning point when you realized you had to make a change financially?
It was actually during the pandemic. Flying slowed down. Suddenly, I wasn't in the air every week, and I had time to look at my finances properly. And it scared me. I was in my 30s, earning well for years, but I didn't even have a solid emergency fund. That's when I stumbled onto FIRE, and it was like a light bulb went off. I realized if I kept living like I was, I'd be flying forever. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to.
So going from a fast-paced, high-spending lifestyle to thinking about fire must have been a big shift for you. How do you start that transition?
Honestly, small steps. First, I stopped just trying to keep up with colleagues. I didn't need to hit every luxury restaurant or shop on every layover. I started tracking my spending. Painful at first, but eye-opening. Then I began learning about investing. At first, it was intimidating, but I realized if I could memorize flight checklists and procedures, I could definitely learn how to grow my money.
You mentioned you started learning about investing during the pandemic and that kind of clicked for you. But I'm curious, do you actually develop a plan? Like, how do you decide where to put your money right now?
Yeah, good question. At first, I had no clue. I mean, I knew what stocks were, but mutual funds, index funds, it all sounded like alphabet soup. So I started reading blogs, books, podcasts. And honestly, the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't need to overcomplicate it.
Wait, so what's your actual strategy? Are you picking stocks?
Nope, definitely not picking stocks. I used to think that was the smart way. Like, if you're smart enough to fly a plane, you can pick the next Tesla. But then I read about how even pros get it wrong. So I went the opposite direction. Low cost index funds. I wanted something I could set and forget, something that wouldn't keep me up at night,
So you're just buying the whole market.
pretty much. I figured instead of betting on one company, why not bet on all of them and let compounding do the work over time? I started with a few broad market ETFs like a global tracker and a US S&P 500 fund. I automate monthly contributions, kind of like a flight plan. I don't touch it unless there's turbulence, and even then, I just reassess, not panic.
That makes sense, but what about real estate? A lot of pilots I've spoken to go for condos or rental units. The whole safe asset thing.
I thought about it a lot. My parents kept saying, just buy a unit. It's solid. And yeah, in Singapore, property feels safe. But when I crunched the numbers, Down payment, maintenance, vacancy risk, illiquidity. It just didn't fit my lifestyle. I'm never in one place long enough to manage a rental. Plus, I have to tie up most of my capital in one asset, in one country. Felt too risky. So I went geographic diversification instead. My investments are mostly in global markets, not just Singapore. I sleep better knowing I'm not all in on one economy.
That's actually smart. So FTCs is basically low cost, diversified, automated, long term.
Exactly. Simple, boring, effective. I call it my autopilot portfolio. It runs on its own, I keep feeding it, and I don't interfere. If I can trust automation in a plane at 37,000 feet, I can trust it with my money out.
I love that autopilot portfolio. So no crypto, no side hustles, no moonshot dreams.
Look, I'm human. I looked at crypto. Everyone was talking about it during lockdown. Bitcoin to the moon. I even bought a tiny bit, just to say I did. But I sold it fast. Too volatile. Too emotional. Doesn't fit my plan. Same with side hustles. I don't have the bandwidth. My focus is on consistency, not quick wins.
So what's your target? When do you want to reach fire?
I'm aiming for early 40s. I don't need to retire completely. Maybe just fly part-time or only on routes I love. But I want the freedom to say no. That's the goal. Optionality. I want to land one day and know I don't have to take off again if I don't want to.
That's powerful, and honestly, I think that's the real luxury. Not the five-star hotel or the shopping sprees, but the ability to choose.
Exactly. That's the new high. Not adrenaline from takeoff, but peace from knowing you're in control. Not just of the plane, but of your life.
Highlights are trained to follow checklists and routines. Do you think that discipline carry over into your approach with money and investing?
Absolutely. Flying teaches you to be systematic. You don't just wing it, you follow a structure, step by step. I applied that same mindset. Budgeting became my pre-flight checklist. Investing became my flight plan. Once I saw it that way, it actually felt natural.
How do you balance enjoying the perks of being a pilot while also staying committed to fire?
I still enjoy the lifestyle, but with limits. Instead of fine dining every trip, maybe I pick one special experience and skip the rest. Instead of buying luxury goods, I save those dollars for investing. And honestly, the joy I get now from seeing my portfolio grow is bigger than the thrill of buying another watch or another night out. It's a different kind of high.
What advice would you give to other pilots or frequent travelers who are living for the moment but not planning for the future?
My biggest advice: don't confuse lifestyle with wealth. Just because you're staying in five-star hotels doesn't mean you're building a future. Start small. Save, invest, even if it's just a fraction of your paycheck. And don't wait until your 30s like I did. The earlier, the better.
Finally, what's next for you in this fire journey and what do you hope people will take away from your story?
For me, it's about balance now. I still love flying. It's in my blood, but I want the option to step back one day, on my terms, not because I have no choice. If people take anything from my story, I hope it's this: you can enjoy the thrills of today, but don't forget to build for tomorrow.